Rapunzel writes, "My mother has trapped me in a tower and locked me away from the world. I'm lonely, I'm cold, I'm bored. Will I ever be free?" So we're going to do a reading for Rapunzel, who managed to get her message to us. And we're going to do a 4-card reading. The first card is going to represent something that Rapunzel needs to know about her mother's decision to do this, because this is obviously a shocking thing for a mother to do. We're going to take a look at the second card, and that's going to tell us what's at work in Rapunzel's life that's out of her control. The third card is going to be something that she can do to free herself. And then the fourth card is going to represent where things are headed based on her life current events. So, as always, shuffled already, and we'll draw the cards. So the first card is the Tower, appropriately enough. The second card is the Nine of Wands reversed. The third card is the Chariot reversed. And the fourth card is the Six of Wands. So, there we have it. So, let's start right at the top. So we start with the Tower. I can't think of a more appropriate card to show up for Rapunzel here. This is one of those things that always kind of knocks you over when you're doing a reading. The Tower symbolizes a dramatic shattering of old ways. It symbolizes the crumbling mores and patterns and stability. It talks about those moments in life where the walls crumble around us. In some cases, these are freeing events. In other cases, they're incredibly difficult. But either way, they're always dramatic, and they're pretty necessary. Now, again, this card represents what Rapunzel needs to know about her mother's decision to do this, to lock her away in a tower. And I'm not a parent, but I think about my own childhood in this case. Our parents create us, and then they do what they can to protect us, and inevitably we break away, often pretty violently, often pretty painfully for them. Recently I was sitting on a train watching a mother with her 2 daughters, and one of them, it must have been the older one, although not by much, just rolled her eyes and sneered at everything her mother said, and her mother was trying desperately to pretend it wasn't bothering her, and that she was cool about it, and it just seemed sort of sad to me. And it was one of those first moments in my life where I remember considering what my childhood rebellion must have been like for my parents. It was necessary, but it certainly mustn't have been easy for them. So I think that this card here represents that Rapunzel's mother knows that this is inevitable, that she's going to leave. Rapunzel will leave someday, that she has to be freed. I know no matter what she knows no matter what she says or does, that Rapunzel's going to have to break away. I think what she's done in an attempt to prevent that. But I think even with all that, the Tower suggests she knows it's inevitable. The card wasn't reversed. If it had been reversed, I would say she's trying to deny it or thinking maybe she can prevent it. But I think she knows that the upheaval is going to happen. So, the next card is the Nine of Wands reversed. And this is a nice image, so I'm just going to turn it upright so you can see it. If you haven't seen this deck, you probably have. The Nine of Wands is a pretty defensive card. In the Journey of Wands, I see it as someone who's had to fight to get where he or she is in life, and who remains aware that keeping the position that they've earned involves really defending that title. Wands are fire, passion, creativity. They're related to our life's work, our creative endeavors, those things about which we're most passionate. Normally I don't see them as relationship related, but I think that may be the case in this reading. I think that this card represents Rapunzel's mother's work again. I'm guessing, and it's tough to say, but I would wager that this means that Rapunzel's mother has had to really battle to keep Rapunzel where she is, and she's probably had to find a lot of creative solutions to make that happen. And above, in the tower, we learned that she knows that the escape is inevitable, and I think that the reversal here makes me wonder if she's intensifying her efforts to keep Rapunzel. The reversal here seems to indicate an intensification and a darkening of the card. So that what Rapunzel can't control in life right now is that as her mother realizes and understands more and more that the breakaway is inevitable, she's going to intensify her efforts to keep Rapunzel where she is. And of course, that's something Rapunzel can't control. So the next card we have is the Chariot reversed. And this card represents what Rapunzel can do to free herself. And again, the Chariot. I'll flip it over again, just because it's much nicer to see them upright. The Chariot is very much a motion-oriented card, so it's interesting that it shows up here reversed. It's a little tricky, actually. But here's what I think. In this deck, the horses that guide the Chariot are pretty erratic, and they're kind of helter-skelter. Which it's not what it is in the Rider-Waite deck, which I usually use. So I think that the reversal in this card indicates that in order for Rapunzel to free herself, she can't let all that erratic energy continue. She has to rein in all of her energies and all the energies surrounding her to focus on the particular goal that she's after. She's in a difficult position. She physically can't move ahead. And the card may symbolize that. It may mean, in a more negative way, that you just simply can't do anything right now. But I believe there's very few situations in life where you can't do anything. So what I think this suggests is that Rapunzel can't allow a single stream of energy to go astray. She's got to set the path for herself, she's got to focus on it, and she's got to rein in all her energies towards it. Because what she's facing is pretty difficult, and it's going to require every ounce of attention that she has. It may also indicate the reversal that Rapunzel has to know that this is going to be a slow process. Things can't be accelerated. And accepting that without losing hope isn't easy, without it crushing our spirit isn't easy. And the majors are often spirit-related. And I think that says something here. But the Chariot's always a chariot. It's always a tool for advancement, for forward motion, and, ultimately for racing. So marshaling all those energies and accepting the slowness and difficulty of it and forging ahead despite that, I think is what this means, despite the kind of impossible slog that makes up this reading, or that this makes up this card. So the final card represents a little bit of a forecast, and the fourth card is where things are headed right now based on life's current events. And it's pretty hard to escape that the Six of Wands is a card of victory, of success. In many decks it's titled Success. And they're wands, so there's always a passion and fire to them, so it's probably a pretty intense success. So this is certainly an auspicious card. So despite all that slog of the Chariot reversed, all the intensity of the mother's desire to defend the tower, it seems like this card says, things are moving in a way where you will wind up in a position of feeling victorious. If things keep going as they are, Rapunzel's going to find herself feeling a victory. Now, what that means specifically depends on her view of victory, but it's a good sign nonetheless. Now, when a reading ends negatively, I always tend to ask for one more card to give us a little bit of hope. And when a reading ends positively, I always like to caution a little bit, because, 6 is not the end of the wand cycle, and as we know in the wand cycle, as we go to the 7, 8, 9, and the 9 and 10 certainly is. In fact, we have the 9 here. We know that there's a little bit of a tension, a defensiveness, and a burden that goes on. I think that it's a burden. The weight of that burden depends on how we're viewing our work, but I think the reason that I bring this up here is that this victory is not the end of the wands. It's the beginning of the second half. And I bring that up because when a reading ends positively, I think sometimes that says to us, oh, well, I can sit back and relax. And that's not the case. Wands are creativity, but that's also work. And so I think it's important when a reading ends positively to remind ourselves that we have to keep going on the path. We have to keep working. We have to keep remembering that it's hard work, not passivity, that helps us advance in life. And, of course, remember how much marshaling of energy is going to be required in that 7 and that chariot. So the Six of Wands is certainly a great card to see here. It looks like things are going to turn out pretty well if things are going the way they are. But we have to remember, we can't relax completely. So just to summarize, we start the reading with the Tower, and this was again something that she needs to know about her mother's choice to lock her away. And it seems to be that her mother's aware even that the escape is inevitable, but as parents do, they want to prevent it. The Nine of Wands reversed here in this position about the thing that Rapunzel can't control right now seems to indicate that because her mother is so aware of the situation, she's probably intensifying her need and her ways of defending her what she's built, in this case the tower that Rapunzel's locked in. What Rapunzel can do, we have the chariot reversed, and I think that this says we have to marshal all our energies. We can't let anything erratic go forward. We have to make sure that we focus on the fact that this is going to be a slow process, and there's a lot in our way, but that ultimately we can have an effect and push forward. And then finally, the Six of Wands seems to indicate that if all things are moving as they are, there's going to be a pretty victorious event. It's going to feel pretty victorious. And to keep in mind, of course, that proceeding in life and keeping on our path is hard work. But if we stay on there, we'll have a great success. So there we have our spread for Rapunzel. And we hope indeed that Six of Wands is right on.